Hello, this is Witch Nikki. And yesterday I started telling about I was going to read some stories from some of the short stories that I've written in the past. And I was thinking about putting them into one book. Eventually I might do that, but I am working on a novel right now. And I don't really want to read any part of the novel. I don't want to give it away. Literally, I don't want to give it away. How one of my friends heard me talking on the other video, and he said that I had asked him, and he said that my voice sounded a little bit hoarse, so I'm going to be drinking some hot coffee just to help out. I don't have a sore throat. What's going on here is that this lymph node over here in my thyroid, way before COVID, had swollen up, like years before. And so anyways, I'm going through the process. Let's just say that. I'll be seeing my doctor next week. Sorry, not next month. Now, a little bit of background on this story. It is adult fiction, so I can't put an age. You have to put an age. When you see the suggestions of rated MA for mature audiences or something like that, this would probably fall in that category. Okay, but as far as ages go, they're your children. You let them listen to and watch whatever you want. And I'm not suggesting this is for children, and I don't think Ginger has read it, but I wouldn't stop her from reading it. It's got bad language, but she has a filter. She has this built-in filter ever since she was little, and still going. She don't use bad language, even if she hears it. It just don't come out of her mouth. But if I'm going to be writing adult fiction, what I mean by adult fiction is that it's going to have some mature themes in it. It's going to have some violence. It's going to have some words in there that some people might take offense to. Okay? But for all of you folks, I suggest you turn this off now. It's okay. It won't hurt my feelings. I won't know. And I understand, I do. But nowadays, you just can't write a story of adult fiction without some kind of language and stuff. I mean, you can't have adult people in a real fictional type story just saying poo-poo and pee-pee and whatever, okay? So, this story here might take me a while. It's called 2 p.m. Circle of Crazy Females. And I'm just going to go down my list, okay? And read them as I feel up to it. Okay, the first part here, it says, its title is Stonewall Inmates, okay? Now, I also want to give a little bit of background. This is not a prison per se, but it is a mental institution type place, but that is like a prison for mentally insane, criminally, mentally insane, whatever the correct term is. I'm sorry if I'm using an old-fashioned term that went out with stuff that we don't use anymore for politically correct. But I do know I wrote this story several years ago, and I know that times are changing. So Sometimes you watch a movie and it's written about a certain era of time. You might watch a movie about the 60s. You might watch one about the 70s. And you're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff. Historically speaking, some of the stuff does happen or has happened. It's a little bit of history in a story, okay? And there might be a smidgen, if that, of some kind of truth. As far as my story, my history goes. Now, I've never been in a criminally insane asylum or any place like that, but I once was locked away for attempted suicide for, I think, about 2 days or something. It just seemed like it took forever. I don't want to get into all those details, but that story was kind of manufactured in a big way. Some of the things I saw, some of them I didn't see. Some of them are written because of something that somebody did to me. And this was my therapy of dealing with it. Okay. So this is one reason why I'm talking about it. I know now that suicide is not ever an option. You might think it's a choice, but it's not. It shouldn't be. There's always an opt-out of that. And it's been many years now. I'm not going to go into all the details, like I said, of when and why and all of that. But I was not in a very good place mentally and physically. Mostly physically. And then it kind of messed with me mentally. Okay? So, anyways, Stonewall inmates. So this is kind of like introducing them. Star Rain, serving life for premeditated murder of her cheating husband. Faith Linwood, serving 25 years for extreme aggravated domestic violence. Maggie Oliver, serving life because God told her to kill 3 kids. Buggy Mary Invita, serving life. She killed her husband's lover. Sanika Iradi, serving 15 years. She poisoned her mother after her mom sewed her genitals closed. Johnny, who's actually female, I wrote it in a female form, Jonnie, Woodwalker, serving life, killed 2 men that raped her 2 years after the act. So she was raped, and then 2 years after that act, she killed them. And you're not supposed to do stuff like that. If they're in the process, hell yeah, I would. You go reaching in the cookie jar that the cookies are not made for you, and you haven't been invited to take any of them, yeah, you're going to get smacked. If not that, whacked. All right. It was 2 p.m. We were asked to line up for the circle. I am Star Rain. This is my second time here. Stonewall, home for the criminally insane women. The group has 6 females. There were more living here, but only 6 who actually spoke. The others were pissers, droolers, screamers, and vegetables. Stonewall staff. Nurse Prettemeyer was in charge. She stood 6 feet. She had yellow brownish hair, always in a tight bun. She was She was the 3 big B's: big boned, big boobs, and big butt. She was sharp. Don't mean smart. I mean meaner than Cruella de Vil. She had a clipboard, it seemed, stuck to her left arm and hip. She took record of everything. Why, if one of us farted wrong, she took note. The other day, shift included the 3 G's: Gus, Glenn, and Gary. Gus is a large man, 6 feet 3 inches and about 300 pounds. Glenn and Gary were twins. They were tall, thin men with skin as black as coal. They took orders from Gus. There was one teeny nurse's assistant, Millie, who reminded me of Edith Bunker with a Minnie Mouse voice. The medicine tech, Lily, who worked her shift in the meds closet. There was a night shift too. Martha, Bart, and Neil. We rarely saw them. The 3 G's cleaned. They mopped, piss, and barf as needed. They washed the pissers and the droolers, the screamers, and the vegetables. The rest of us got supervised showers by Millie. No matter how much the 3 G's cleaned, there was always a stench of piss and faint smell of graham crackers. They gave us graham crackers after our meds. During the night, we would hear screaming from random rooms of the droolers, the screamers, and pissers. Eventually, they were taken to the room marked Danger High Voltage. They came out to join the vegetable patch. We stayed quiet at night, lying awake under what Bart and Neil did to those females and not wanting to know. 2 p.m. Yeah, 2 p.m. We were in line. Pretty liked organization and prompt schedule following. She had to keep her notebook in perfect accord. As we sat in plastic folding chairs, she checked us off. Wow, it was amazing how someone as anal retentive as Pretty was had a job here and not be one of us. The pissers, droolers, and screamers stood or walked around the room, tracing lines with their fingers on the wall, or talking to invisibles. They were never allowed to join the 2 p.m. circle, but a few of them wandered closer when I told my stories. Even the 3 G's would find places to mop closer to us when I spoke. Okay, ladies, today's topic is your worst childhood memory. Oh, crap, not that again, I complained. Every Monday was Worst Childhood Memories Day, and I always made a big deal about it. What now? Miss Rain, do you have something to say? That was the wrong thing to say to me. She hated me for being sane, for being educated and having things to say. It overworked her $45 an hour overpaid mind to record what I said. Well, why do we gotta remember that crap for? I never killed anyone back then. You will be silent, Pretty yelled. And you will shut the fuck up and let her talk, Faith Linwood's hoarse voice yelled. The 3 G's moved forward, but Pretty waved her hand and scribbled wildly as if possessed by such an outburst. Faith was brought in after the mysterious killing of her daughter. She told the police a monster took TV screen things out of her daughter's brain. The killing of her daughter was never explained. Faith was here for the murder of her husband's mistress. And, she had her hacked up body parts in a large freezer in the cellar. Faith chose her first time to speak in 8 months. The 8 months she's been here to yell at Preddy. I would laugh about it more tomorrow. I believe I was just given the floor. Coffee is just so good. Or tea when you're reading a story. Go get yourself some. Put it on pause. Go get you some coffee or some tea. I usually got my way. Preddy needed to take more notes on something. And 1 hour of silence seemed like 4 long hours. No one ever talked. And I had plenty to say. I was pregnant with our first baby when I found out he'd been cheating. There were breaths drawn at that. Faith and Buggy were in tune to my story. The others were in their internal secrets of bliss and shame. My first time at Stonewall. He was in a garage band called Lick and Moan. Moans from the audience. The girls went nuts over his talents. He was 5 feet tall, spiked black and orange hair. His stage name was Origami. Play on words, his oral skills and Japanese paper folding. I think I can figure it out, I paused with Faith. Shook her head and Buggy stifled a giggle. I noted that the 3 G's were mopping closer to the circle. Millie pulled up a chair. I continued. I was in my 8th month. Sorry, gotta scroll up. I followed him to the nightclub where the band was having a gig there. Someone had told me he was doing chicks or them doing him before the gig. I had to see for myself. He was backstage with a body tramp. Body tramp. Body. She was showing him her oral skills. All I needed was to see for myself. I left and went home in silent rage. When I got home, I yelled and screamed and then stopped dead in my tracks. I looked down to a puddle of light pink liquid pooling around my feet. I called my mom, who lived 2 blocks away, and was knocking at the door before I finished changing my clothes. She called the lighthouse where his band was in the middle of their first set. She left a message. After the set, the manager came to Johnny to give the message. I had been checked into the room and was waiting to be checked by the doctor. My mom went to get coffee. I was lying in bed when Johnny burst into the room screaming, "Star, you fucked up bitch. What did you do?" He picked up the phone and smacked me across the face. I blacked out in a pool of bloody stars. When I came to, my mom was standing against the bathroom door and a security guard was asking her questions, while a nurse checked the gash over my eyebrow. Things happened fast. They took Johnny. My mom waited. They took me to deliver a baby girl, Jane. 2 weeks later, I let him think all was good. He didn't know that his game had made me deliver early. He blamed me. One night, he came home so drunk. He wasn't expecting to smash his 2,500 fender over his head. Oh, he wasn't expecting me to smash his $2,500 fender over his head. Now, for some of you who don't know, a fender is a guitar. That is how I got sent to Stonewall the first time. I took a breath and looked around. How did you get out and get him? Buggy asked. We called Mary Buggy due to her looking like a bug, and in oversized glasses, and her hair was missing here and there because she tore it out and ate chunks at a time. She rarely spoke, and when she did, Pretty took notes. I got out one night when Bart and Neil called the nurse Martha to the high voltage room. Pretty looked at me, but continued to write. Getting out. Martha left in such a hurry, she left the doors open to the meds room where there was a doorway out to the service elevator to the kitchen. As I passed through the meds room, I noticed a metal box opened. I took it. I looked in it and found $50. I took it. I left going down to the kitchen. There was a board telling weekly pickups and deliveries. There was a giant load of laundry going out tomorrow at 5 a.m. I got into the cart and covered up with dirty linens. It was smelly, but I soon fell asleep. The movement of the clothes bin woke me up. I stayed put. The truck driver rolled the bin out and went back for the next one. I waited and had to wait until the truck made it out of the gated security facility. Finally, the truck made it to the laundry company. Why did it be like that? Okay. When the driver took out one bin, I got out and stole away into the street and hailed a cab. I instructed him to a florist. I picked up daisies and had them sent to Johnny's office. I attached a note. Because I love you, meet me at home. I want a lick and moan. I heard that he and the bimbo were going to get married. That would mean my baby would be around the woman who took my man, and I wasn't going to allow that. My mom wanted to take care of Jane, but as long as Johnny was around, she couldn't. I had preventative maintenance to attend to. Preventative maintenance. I called Daisy's office to make an appointment with her way across town to an apartment with Jake. He was an old friend. I called him, and he would take care of her. She worked for a personal massage therapy company. I arrived to our home and prepared myself for a homecoming party. I turned on the radio. It was on K-Wiz. The only station that played Lick and Moan's music. A song finished and a news flash announced an escape from Stonewall. Name of escapee was not mentioned. I was sure that Johnny was on his way and hearing the same report. 10 minutes later, I heard his '65 Mustang roll up in the drive. I had left daisy petals from the door to the bedroom. Candles also lit the way to Loveland. Incense was flowing throughout the house. Asian paradise was our favorite pre-warm-up to a romantic night. The front door was unlocked. Johnny called out for her. I beckoned him by putting on the Lick It Raw song, Sex on the Beach. I heard his footsteps. Years ago, Jake taught me how to be stealth and quick, and how to use a knife to bleed the juggler, to silence but not to kill. I paused. Predamile was waving at me. When we walked into the room, his eyes didn't adjust to the dark room. Sweetie, where? Ugh, ugh, ugh. He saw my reflection a thread of a second before I skillfully carved his jugular and he sunk to the floor. I turned him belly up, power fueled by adrenaline like a power drink injected into my veins. He looked at me with his slitty eyes and became Americanized, round in fear. My knife sliced through his pants with the skill of an iron chef. The secret ingredient is family sausage, I announced in my best Japanese Iron Chef imitation. With one quick zip of my blade, I sliced the throbbing maker pecker off. Blood sausage, anyone? I no longer had a captive audience, but I turned the webcam I had set up and made sure Jake had a good shot to show Daisy, who was getting a view as it happened. I then turned to a very bloody Johnny, opened his mouth, and gave him his last meal. I heard liquid splash on the floor. Glenn vomited. Nurse Predamile got up, knocking over a chair, and hurried toward the bathroom, slipped in Glenn's puddle. Gary was doubled over, protecting his manhood. Men do that when they hear or see it happen to another guy. Penis sympathy. And that, ladies, is how Insane Revenge brought me, Insane Reign, back to the 2 p.m. circle of insane females. I finished theatrically, waving my hands out in front of me like a magician. Buggy, Sankira Iradi, and Johnny Woodwalker all stood up cheering. Yes, molested, raped, abused, cheating on women are deemed unfit and too insane for society. It was 3 p.m., time for our medication. Note: there is a slice of reality in this story, but a lot of whipped cream on top. Okay, so if you have questions, ask them below in the comments. Subscribe, please. Give me thumbs up. That's all I'm asking for. Thumbs up and or subscribe. Leave the thumbs down alone. You don't need to mess with that. Okay? Because I told you in the beginning what this was going to be about, at least rating MA. The only reason why I'm not putting any kind of age restrictions on it and stuff, because I think folks ought to be taking care of their kids, and you need to be monitoring what they're watching. And if I put that this is for children, they're going to take away the comments. And I'm not having that just because y'all can't take care of your kids. And if need be, I'll just put it on private, that you could ask me for a link to look at this if you want to. I don't really much care. It is what it is. It wasn't that bad as I thought. There was some words in it, but some of them you hear every day, don't you? Practically. Now, story 2 will be for another time because I'm 30 minutes. And I need to give my voice a rest here. But story 2 will be called Shapeshifter. So I'll be going through that tomorrow. Now, if you have any problems with me using some racial comments or whatever in here, phrases like the Iron Chef imitation, okay, well, first of all, the Iron Chef does kind of speak like that. And it's just a joke. Okay, it's not, I mean, I'm not a racist. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not a racist. Things get like this get written into a story for whatever reason. Okay. Now, there are some things in here that sort of slightly happen, and one of them is not cutting off a man's sausage and sticking it in his mouth. That's the whipped cream that I'm talking about. Okay. Now, did I ever sit at a 2 p.m. circle? I sat at group therapy several times before the past few years. I'm talking about years and years ago after my incident. And I was put on medication for that. It was like part of the agreement that if I wanted to get out, I had to promise to take medication, and I had to promise to be a good girl and all of that business, and go to therapy, group therapy, because I guess I didn't do anything wrong, actually. It was like a thought, it was a plan, and they don't like that in this world. They don't like you making a plan to kill yourself, not even thinking about it. So it's kind of hard for me to write about this in a way, because I was thinking, well, what if she's planning this? What if she did something like this? No. I take a good scoop, like a little smidgen of reality, and a bigger scoop of fluff and fiction and all kinds of stuff, and just mix it all around and see what I get. And this is what I got. This is actually one of the biggest short stories that I wrote. And did you see any resemblances to any other story? I'll let you mind. If you're about my age, a little bit older or younger, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. There was another story, and it was about men. Okay? So, it wasn't quite the same though, was it? Nah. I'm not saying which one I think is better, but hey, I can like my own writing. You should like your writing. If you don't like it, there's nobody gonna like it. Nobody. Because if you don't like it and you're the one who wrote it, it's not going to get liked. It's just not. So yeah, I like my writing. Other people have read this and they like it. Okay. So one of my reasons for doing this is to let you know that when you have issues, you don't have to go out and hurt people. You can write about it. Now, some of the people in here total fiction, okay? And some of them are based off of, truth, people that I've known. The reason for that is because you need to kind of make up characters in a story, okay? But where are you going to get the ideas for how they behave? Well, from what you've seen yourself, what you've gone through, people you've met. And it's one thing that I do is when I'm out and about, I try to just let everything happen, whatever's happening around me, because I'm thinking, wow, that's an odd one. That's worth putting up here and writing about somewhere else. Now, let me see. There's another story in here. I'm going to skim down and see if I could find it. This next short story is kind of long. I was thinking about making it a novel too. But for some reason it just got so tedious for me, and things that were going on around me and stuff, it was just hard for me to write it all out. But it is a longer than short story, I think. So it's kind of like a mid. I'm already looking at like 9 chapters, but the chapters are very small and go kind of quickly. So I told you there is another story, The Biggest Geode, that's based off of fact and fiction. Now, the fiction-y part is usually the violence. When I say that I've written it based off of, that just means that I got the idea somewhere along the way. Could have been a camping trip, or I used to go, like in this situation, I used to go digging for crystals. So one time, I was on a rock hunting trip with a friend, and I just started getting my writer instinct and my writer's thing, whatever you want to call it, power came over. I started sensing stories left and right. Some places will do that to you, you know. This happened to be way out in the desert. And there were some times where it was really hot during the day, but during the night it was really cold. And actually, there was one time during this time that something kind of almost bad happened, but I went and kind of locked myself in my tent. So I'm gonna have to go over this one again. I'm going on through here. One story I wrote, and then I did it in a class for creative writing, and they all said, we want to hear part 2. Where's part 2? So the teacher said, yeah, I would like to kind of hear part 2, but where there was some kind of something good coming of it. I'm like, really? So you want a fantasy story? Because sometimes bad stuff happens in your life and it's just all bad. Sometimes the good stuff don't happen till years and years later. So, but I did write it. I did write it. I'm just looking at some of this now. What is this? Okay, now it's something else. And oh my goodness, this is another part, the part 2 of that story I was telling you. It really almost turns into a book. And I kind of wanted it to also. I wanted to do another novel with this story, and I just might. Now, let's see. Oh, I haven't written it in yet. I've gotten down to the bottom of it. I hope I can find this story. I know I have it somewhere. It's called I Will Tuck You In. So I guess I got down to the bottom of all of this. But anyways, I got a few stories here that I'm hoping in my emails somewhere I got these stories down, because otherwise, oh Jesus, especially the one about the, what was it called up here? I might have it in my Dropbox. And I need to get stuff out of my Dropbox, and even if I got to put it out here and put it on. This here is called Writer, the Internet Typer, something like that. It's a program that I have. Let's see. Yeah, I have a couple others. But in this, I Will Tuck You In, it's inspired by Enter the Sandman by Metallica. And it has a person that was just mentioned in this other story, the one 3 p.m. Crazy Females. 2 p.m. Sorry, 2 p.m. Circle of Crazy Females. There was a person in there that I think it's Faith Linwood, serving 25 years for extreme aggravated domestic violence. Yeah, because I mentioned her later on in here that and she was the one who just spoke up. And she hadn't been speaking for a while, and she just spoke up. Yeah, Faith. She was brought in after a mysterious killing of her daughter, and she had also killed her husband and his mistress, but then she packed up the body parts. Her husband's mistress. I'm going to have to look in on that a little bit anyways, but because that's a different story, and I don't have it listed here now, but I'm going to have to go and find it. Thank you for tuning in with me, and I hope you did have a cup of coffee or tea, whatever you like to drink, and I'll see you next time. Like I said, if you don't want to subscribe, that's okay. That just means you're not going to get notifications and stuff like that. You just every once in a while, come look at your history of what you've looked at, and you'll see me. You could go to my page and you could look up and see if there's been anything new. So you don't have to subscribe. I'm not here to get famous, and I'm not here to get rich or nothing like that. I'm just here to share. And I hope people like what I do share from time to time. You never know what you're going to get with Witch Nikki. Have a great day.